There is a small paper packet sitting in the crawl space under my mother's house right now, folded like a dumpling, and it has kept that house standing on termite-soft soil for over 30 years without a single professional treatment. Inside, it is a white powder that costs about $2 for enough to treat an entire foundation, and every termite that carries a crumb of it back to the colony is going to kill the queen without ever knowing what hit her. It will not harm the cat that sleeps on the porch. It will not harm the children who play in that yard every summer, so long as you place it the way I am about to show you. It only kills one thing, and it kills the whole colony. Not just the termites you can see. My name is Ju. My grandmother's house in the countryside outside Osaka is still standing on the same cypress beams it was built with in 1968, in a country where termites eat through timber faster than almost anywhere else on Earth because of the heat and the humidity. I have treated more houses for termites using this method than I can count. First alongside my grandmother, watching her hands fold the same paper packet the same way every single time, and now for neighbors who call me before they call an exterminator, usually because a friend of theirs told them about the mud tube I found and fixed 2 summers ago without a single chemical smell left behind. We have never once paid for a fumigation tent. We have never had a termite company on retainer spraying chemicals under our floorboards every year. I am going to show you exactly what we do, in the order we do it, with what it costs and where to place it. Then, I am going to tell you the part that should bother you a little, which is that pest control companies have known about this method for decades, and most of them will not tell you about it, because a $2 packet you make yourself does not come with a service contract at $200 a visit. Stay with me. By the end of this, you will know how to stop a termite colony from the inside, for less than the cost of a fast food meal, and it will not put a single chemical in the air your family breathes. And your bees will thank you for it. Your beams will thank you for it, is what I should have said. And I will tell you why I stumbled on the sentence in a moment, because it goes back to the worst mistake I ever made with a termite problem, and I want you to hear it before I show you the fix. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book you can buy in our pinned comment below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. Let me start with what most people get wrong, because if you do not understand this, none of the rest will work. Termites do not eat your house because your house is old, or because your wood is untreated, or because you live somewhere unlucky. Termites eat your house because a scout found a path from moist soil to a piece of wood, and that path was never broken. A crack in a concrete slab no wider than a pencil is enough. A woodpile touching the side of your house is enough. A leaking gutter that keeps one patch of soil against your foundation damp for months is enough. Subterranean termites, the kind that do almost all of the damage in this country and in mine, cannot survive dry air for more than a few minutes outside their tunnels. They are not flying in from your neighbor's yard to attack you at random. They are following a chain of moisture and wood contact that you built without meaning to. One small thing at a time, over years. That is the whole game right there. If you break the chain, the colony cannot reach your house at all. If you cannot break the chain completely, and this is the trick, if you feed the colony something that kills it slowly enough that it carries the poison home before it dies, you have solved the problem at the source, instead of just killing the ones you can see. This is what my grandmother always did. When I was 19, working my first apartment renovation on my own, I found a mud tube running up the inside of a closet wall, and I panicked. I bought a can of spray insecticide from the hardware store, sprayed every termite I could see until they stopped moving, and felt very proud of myself for about 6 weeks. Then the mud tube came back, thicker than before, because I had only killed the workers standing in front of me that day. The colony underneath, tens of thousands of termites and a queen laying thousands of eggs a day, never even noticed. I had treated the symptom and left the disease completely alone. It came back within the year, and this time it had spread to a second wall. So what actually kills a termite colony, if spraying the ones you can see does almost nothing at all? Here is the part almost nobody explains, and it is the whole reason my grandmother's method works when a spray can does not. Termites are not solitary insects. They are what scientists call eusocial, the same family of behavior as ants and honeybees, which means the colony survives by sharing food constantly, mouth to mouth, in a process called trophallaxis. A worker termite that finds food does not eat it alone. It carries it back and feeds it to a dozen other termites, who feed it to a dozen more, all the way up to the queen and the young larvae that cannot feed themselves. That single fact changes everything about how you fight them. If you find a slow-acting poison, something that does not kill a termite for 2 to 10 days after it eats it, that termite has enough time to carry it all the way back into the colony and share it with hundreds of others before it dies. You are not killing the termites in front of you. You are turning the termites in front of you into a delivery system for the colony's own destruction. Compare that to what most people do, and what most pest control companies sell as their first option, a fast-acting contact spray that kills on touch. It looks like it works, because the termites you can see die immediately, and you feel like you have won. But a colony can have anywhere from 60,000 to 1,000,000 members, depending on the species and how long it has been established, and killing the few hundred you happen to see does almost nothing to a population that size. A full professional fumigation, tenting the whole house and gassing it, runs anywhere from $1,200 to $4,000 depending on the size of the home, and it only works on drywood termites that live entirely inside the wood. It does nothing for subterranean termites, which are the ones eating most houses in the world, because those termites live in the soil and simply walk back underground the moment the tent comes off. The sharp difference is this: the expensive path treats what you can see and charges you thousands of dollars to do it, sometimes without even touching the real problem. The $2 path uses the termites' own social structure against them and quietly kills the entire colony, queen included, using something they carry home themselves. The counterintuitive truth my grandmother lived by is that you were never supposed to fight the termites directly at all. You were supposed to let them do the work of killing themselves by giving them exactly what they were already looking for, laced with something slow enough to travel. This idea is not new, and it is not folk superstition either. Boric acid has been used as a slow-acting insecticide against termites and cockroaches for well over a century, and it works on the same principle modern pest control companies use in their own bait stations, the kind that cost a few $100s to install and require a service contract to refill every few months. The difference is not the chemistry. The chemistry is identical. The difference is that a company selling you a bait station wants you to keep paying for access to a product you could make yourself for the price of a coffee. In Japan, where I learned this from my grandmother, the same principle shows up in a household remedy called hosandango, boric acid dumplings, traditionally used against cockroaches in the kitchen using nearly the exact same ratio of boric acid to a sweet, fatty binder that draws the insect in without warning it away. My grandmother simply adapted the same idea for termites, using sugar instead of onion and placement near active tunnels instead of behind the stove. So here is exactly what my grandmother taught me, and what I do now for anyone who calls me before they call an exterminator. The first step is the bait itself, what she called the paper packet, made from 3 things you likely already have. You take boric acid powder, sold at any hardware store or pharmacy for about $2 for enough to treat several stations, and you mix it into a paste with a small amount of sugar water or honey, about a teaspoon of boric acid to 2 teaspoons of the sweetener until it turns into a thick paste. Termites cannot smell or taste boric acid the way they can a harsh chemical spray, so they carry it home along with the sugar they actually want, and it is the sugar that hides the trap. The second step is placement. And this is the trick almost everyone gets wrong when they try this on their own. You do not put the paste out in the open where a curious pet or a toddler could reach it. You fold it into a small paper packet, an index card works fine, or you pack it inside a short length of cardboard tubing, the kind from a paper towel roll cut into 4-inch sections, and you tuck that packet into the exact spot where you found the mud tube or the termite activity, tight against the wood, in a crawl space, or behind a baseboard where children and pets do not go. If you have a household with small kids or curious dogs, keep every station inside a sealed plastic container, with small entry holes cut for the termites only. The kind of bait station you can build from an old margarine tub so nothing inside is ever exposed. The third step is patience, which is the hardest part for most people. You do not spray, you do not disturb the mud tubes near the bait. You let the colony keep feeding for 10 to 14 days. Disturbing the colony too early scares the workers into avoiding that area entirely, and you lose your delivery system. The fourth step is the cardboard trap, a separate but related trick my grandmother used to find new activity before it ever reached the walls. You take a few sheets of corrugated cardboard, wet them slightly, and stack them in a shallow container near any part of the foundation touching soil, in the crawl space or along an exterior wall. Termites are drawn to the cellulose in wet cardboard even more than they are drawn to house framing, and checking that stack every 2 weeks tells you exactly where activity is happening before it becomes a structural problem. For the cost of cardboard, you probably have in a recycling bin already. The fifth step, and the one people skip because it takes actual effort instead of a product, is breaking the moisture chain permanently. You walk the foundation the same way you would walk a fence line, checking for any wood touching soil, any firewood stacked against the house, any gutter dumping water against one section of the foundation instead of away from it, any crack in the slab wide enough to slide a business card into. Every one of those gets fixed, regraded, or sealed with basic exterior caulk, about $6 a tube, because as long as that moisture path exists, a new colony will eventually find it even after you have killed the last one. One natural product I always keep on hand alongside the boric acid is food-grade diatomaceous earth, a fine powder made from fossilized algae that is safe enough to be used in some pet food, and dusting a thin line of it along an entry point acts as a mechanical barrier, cutting into the termites' exoskeleton as they cross it, without a single chemical odor in the house. I keep both the boric acid and the diatomaceous earth in labeled jars on a high shelf in the garage, never under the kitchen sink where a curious hand could reach them, because the goal is always to keep the household safe while the colony does the work of poisoning itself somewhere it will never be touched by a child or a pet. So when you put all of this together, the boric acid bait hidden in a safe station, the cardboard trap that tells you where activity is happening, and the moisture chain broken for good, you start to see what my grandmother actually understood that most exterminators never explain, which is that a termite colony is not a pest you kill. It is a supply chain you poison from the inside. That single shift in thinking is worth more than any product you could buy. Think about what this actually protects, beyond the wood itself. A serious termite infestation left untreated for years can cost tens of thousands of dollars in structural repair, the kind of damage that shows up as a sagging floor or a door that suddenly will not close right, long after the colony has already done most of the harm. My grandmother used to say a house tells you the truth about what is happening underneath it, long before it ever tells you with a broken beam, if you are willing to walk the foundation every season instead of waiting for a door to stop closing. I did not understand what she meant until years after that first apartment mistake, standing in a different house entirely, watching a contractor pull back a section of drywall to show me exactly how far a colony had traveled, while I assumed the problem was solved because the termites I could see were gone. This is not really about termites at all when you step back far enough. It is about the difference between treating what is visible and understanding what is actually happening out of sight, and that habit of mind protects far more than a foundation. I think about that difference every time I walk into a house where someone tells me proudly that they sprayed and the termites went away, because I know what is usually still happening underneath the floor, while they feel relieved. A colony does not announce that it has moved to a different wall. It just keeps eating, quietly, in the direction of least resistance. And the first sign most families get is a windowsill that feels soft under a fingernail, or a swarm of winged termites pouring out of a wall vent on a warm evening in spring, which is usually the colony's way of telling you it has been established for years already, not days. So here is what I want you to do this weekend, before the next heavy rain. Walk your own foundation with a flashlight. Look for any mud tube, any wood touching soil, any crack a business card could slide into. If you find activity, mix the paste, build a safe station, and place it exactly where the activity is, tight against the wood, sealed away from kids and pets. Set out a cardboard trap near any exterior wall touching soil, and check it in 2 weeks. Tell me in the comments where you live and whether you have ever dealt with termites, and tell me if you find activity when you check that cardboard trap, because I read every one of these and I want to know how it goes for your house specifically, since termite species and building materials vary so much by region. If what you find looks serious, more than one location, sagging wood, or a colony that seems to have been established for years, that is worth a professional inspection before you rely on home methods alone, because at that scale the structural risk is not something to guess at, and no home remedy replaces a proper inspection once real damage is already in the walls. The folks in my grandmother's generation already knew this method worked. I am telling the folks outside of it who were never shown. Next time, I am going to show you what she used to keep the wood beams of an entire house termite resistant for decades, using nothing but a plant oil most people already have in their kitchen cabinet, and one method for applying it that most contractors have never even heard of, because it comes from a tradition that was never written down in any pest control manual, only passed from one set of hands to the next.